got my head out the sunroof. I'm blasting our favorite tunes. I only got one thing on my mind. You got me stuck on the thought of you. You're making me feel brand new. You're more than a sunshine in my eyes. I'm feeling like this might be my time to shine with you, with you, with you. I got my head out the sunroof. I'm blasting our favorite tunes.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. This is In the Middle and Out of the Box, Episode 2. We appreciate all the feedback that we got from everybody about the background. We know the background needs work. We're all in a learning curve here, so just bear with us. Hopefully it's a little bit better today. We're going to change some things around still, so just bear with us. We're getting there, and I hope you enjoyed the last show. Tonight we're going to have a lot of different topics, so stick with me and just follow along. We'll have some fun. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is a new interesting concept that Boca Raton is doing. They are building a large development of 252 units in the old Boca del Mar golf course that's been abandoned for quite some time, since 2005. And basically the concept here, though, that's different is it's a rent-to-build unit or complex. And a rent-to-build complex has a lot of advantages. For people that are looking for larger homes, have families, a two-bedroom, two-bath condo doesn't usually cut it. And the majority of the homes, or the affordable homes, or the workforce homes, or even what's available for rent, usually fits into that mode. So this is specifically for larger families. These are homes. And the rent-to-build concept is that you get to actually pick and design your home. So it's going to be built on, again, the old golf course that is in Boca del Mar. And Boca del Mar's golf course is kind of strewn all through Boca del Mar area. It's not just in one quadrant, and it's a pretty interesting golf course and land. So you're going to have different sections. What's interesting about this is they are going to be building 137 townhomes, 115 single-family homes. And again, the advantage to this is that they are going to have you be able to pick the design you want, design what you want inside, the colors. You're going to actually be renting to build. In addition to that, you're going to have an opportunity to stay in these longer. It's not just like a 6-month or 1 year. You're going to make these your home. And so you're going to be able to have that option of staying in them longer. And the third important option of rent-to-build concept is that you don't have the whole outlay of all the money that you need to purchase something, the closing costs, the down payment, and so forth. So basically, it's just your, first month's, last month's, what I'm sure, security, and so forth. But you don't need the excessive amounts of financial resources needed to purchase a home. So it's kind of best of both worlds. Again, it's an interesting concept. There really isn't one down here in South Florida in this area. So this is going to be the first of its kind. Unfortunately, it does not obviously comply with our affordable housing that we're looking for, or workforce housing. They have not given out the pricing yet, but I'm sure it probably doesn't hit the mark there. Again, it's just another option in housing in South Florida. And this kind of brings up, what Delray did with their defunct golf course in Sherwood Forest Enclave at Sherwood Forest. Basically, this golf course was not used for over 15 years, and a builder came in, Pulte, and decided to build 79 homes. They're very tiny homes on very tiny lots, and I know the setbacks and so forth were waived and changed to not the current regulations to try to accommodate as many homes as possible. And it's just something we really need to think about is every time we waive something like that, there's a consequence. And I know everybody wants affordable housing and everybody wants, workforce housing. I get it 100%. I'm 100% supporter of that. But we have to make sure that it's livable. And when I was looking at the Enclave at Sherwood Forest, I was looking at one of their model pictures. They also have not released their pricing. Hopefully they will be more reasonable. They are very tiny. But if you look at this picture and look through the window, I remember the setback discussion during the commission and the P&Z board. I think it's normally 10 feet on each side, and I think this was down to 5 feet. I mean, it's just you're basically like right on top of your neighbor. So again, it's just something we need to really make sure that, you know, we're thinking about when we're approving things like this, is that, you know, what the livability of that is. I mean, we want affordable housing again, I get it, but we got to make sure we're not waiving some certain things that we want to make sure that people are going to be comfortable in these homes. So that was the Sherwood Forest. And this kind of, you know, one of the statistics I found, which was I thought pretty interesting, was over the last 15 years, more than 1,600 golf courses have closed. And I know I touched on this a little bit last week about the historic Delray Golf Club and about how it's so important, how it started out in 1926. It was only 9 holes. And I think it's really important to make sure that a concept to be able to keep the golf course without renting or selling off the frontage on Atlantic Avenue is making that other piece, like we discussed last week, just as a recap, a central park. And that way we save on all the costs that it would cost to fix all the issues and problems on the other half of the golf course. We can keep the historic golf course. And again, maybe at a later date, if it ever wants to go back to 18 holes, we still have the land. But in the meantime, all the residents get the chance to use this central park for the other half of the golf course that would not be utilized as a golf right now. So again, that was the option from last week. You know, it just brought it home a little bit more too. There was a lot of votes this week in Delray, and one of them was about Atlantic Crossing using Veterans Park, and it just so happened, it was a coincidence, that I came across this picture. And even though it said Recreation Park, I had to ask a couple of the local historians. Thank you, John Miller. And he said, yes, it is. It's actually Veterans Park. It was called that back then. And if you look at the picture, I mean, it's so beautiful. The green grass, the open space on the right side of what we can see about it. But it's just something, again, you know, even with this golf course and giving frontage or leasing or selling frontage away, we really try to maintain what we have and not lose it, because you can never get it back. So it's so important. And again, I just happened to come across this, and I thought that was just really interesting, because even today, obviously, it doesn't look like this. A lot of it is store frontage and so forth on the road. Okay, another thing I wanted to talk about today was Boca Raton has a brand new park that it's going to be opening, and it's working on right now. It's called Ocean Strand Park. And it's actually located a little bit north of Gumbo Limbo. And if you look at the map there, you'll see the red line right there. And actually the park actually goes across to the ocean. But they're only developing right now in phase 1 the side of the intercoastal. And what's interesting about this park is I think it was in litigation for many years, and nothing was ever done to it. But what's interesting about this in phase 1, they're going to have walking trails. Everything's going to be ADA accessible. They're going to have educational opportunities. They're going to have kayaking. They're going to have dockage. They're going to have to the intercoastal. They're going to have a lot of things. And what I thought was really interesting is that when they were, here's a little bit more. Here's a look of what the park's going to look like. You're going to see, you know, it's just going to be a very nature-oriented park. Lots of trees. You have to remember this lot has a lot of mature trees on it. And you can actually see how the property goes all the way to the ocean on the right there. So it's on both sides, which is fantastic. I mean, who gets that anywhere nowadays? So eventually they're going to be doing the development of that also, or I'm sure an access road or underneath with a tunnel like they have at Spanish River. But what's wonderful is that they have this park that they can start using now, and they're going to start developing in phase 1. It's going to be very beneficial to the residents of Boca and hopefully others that can enjoy it. What's interesting is that when they were doing this park, they actually came across Indian burial. They actually came across bones and some remnants from a tribe called the Jaca tribe. And it was very interesting because they actually found a woman who was in her 30s and a 2-year-old child, and a couple other bones that were found. And when I was researching this about trying to find out, well, what tribe this came from, what I found fascinating was that I already knew from being vice mayor in Highland Beach about the numerous burial mounds that we have in Highland Beach. One of the reasons, it's Highland is because it was a very high ground compared and very high dune system. And so they use that for the burial grounds. So I know that back in 1970, they found 160 skeletons. 10 years ago, they found two other skeletons when they're doing construction on new condos and so forth. And when they were digging out for the new Ocean Strand Park, they also found, pottery and remnants like that in addition to remains. And then I also found that, here's another example about this isn't about Delray, this isn't about Boca, this isn't about Highland Beach. Delray had also found some bones and remnants of an Indian tribe. The latest I saw was in 2010, and they were reinterred and taken care of properly. But it's just amazing how, if you really think about, all this happened before we were here, 1,000 years ago, 800 A.D. And it's just amazing that these remnants are still being found. It's like as quickly as today with Ocean Strand Park, they're still being found. So that was pretty interesting. Here's the higher ground. You can see why they would want to put burial mounds in a higher ground. And they are found all throughout the barrier islands. This is the site, one of the sites, I should say, in Highland Beach that there were some found. Okay, now today I'm also going to talk about what my out-of-the-box idea is. And my out-of-the-box idea today has a lot to do with affordable housing and workforce housing, which is a topic we're all interested in. So I want to go back a little over a year ago. I had a conversation with a mayor of another town, and they were kind enough to share kind of their template of what they're doing. And what I discovered is that they were getting a lot of funding from a large financial resource that favored doing a railroad corridor funding for workforce and affordable housing. And, I thought this was fantastic. So I spoke to a couple people. I actually spoke to one of the commissioners on the Palm Beach County Commission, again, because I was vice mayor at the time. And afterwards, I spoke to them, still having those contacts. And they were all in favor of doing something at our Delray County partnership site we have, where they have the Delray offices, county offices, DMV, we have Tri-Rail. That whole railroad corridor is just waiting to be developed. I understand from the prior commissioners that I spoke to that the buildings that the county have there are falling apart. They were built in the 80s, and they have mold issues, they have leakage issues, they have all kinds of problems. So they are waiting. That would be something they'd be willing to redevelop. And I also discussed this over a year ago with one of the commissioners in Delray, who shall be nameless. And at the time, I was leaving for a trip to Europe for 3 months. But I offered my services. I offered to come and meet, even with the Affordability Committee, the Workforce Housing or the Affordable Housing Committee by Skype. And that doesn't seem like it was possible for whatever reason. But I did, want to give all this information and share all this information. So the problem is that this is just, again, ripe for developing for workforce and affordable housing, especially since it could be a partnership, a Delray Beach and County partnership that could do this. So again, here's the DMV building, the Tri-Rail. This is a mixed-use property, and so the idea is out of the box is having workforce housing, affordable housing on top, having county offices, DMV, the voting registration office, and so forth, all the offices down below. That's what mixed use is. So, we could find different architectural types and styles, but overall the concept is to use that railroad corridor. So what we need to do is try to develop this railroad corridor. We'll be able to get substantial financing from some financial institutions, and used this other city as a template that was kind enough to share with us their information and formulas and how they're going about it themselves and they're successful at. So again, this is where, it's really important to share information amongst ourselves. One of the things I really was shocked about when I was a vice mayor in Highland Beach was none of the other cities worked together. No one even knew who each other were. They didn't talk to each other. They didn't share ideas. They didn't even call each other up if there was an issue or a problem or whatever. I found that fascinating. So the first thing I did was go out and try to make connections with people in Boca. I tried to make some connections with people in Delray at the time and try to get everybody talking at least and know who each other were. Because one of our greatest strengths can be, again, not recreating the wheel. If other cities and other places are doing a better job or a great job, again, we can just utilize that and just change it for how we need it, our template. So here's another architectural style that I found, again, something similar to the first one, but again, it could just be any type of mixed-use property. Okay, so another similarity we have with Boca and Delray together is I'm going to talk about just real quick the holidays and how we had parades, and it's always fun to see that Boca and Delray are still doing their parades. I think that's really important that we keep those traditions alive and we each also have them. It's really nice to see that. And I know that Boca and Delray also have their own boat parades. Delray piggybacks, I think, with Boynton, but I know that Boca has their boat parade, and it's just such a nice thing, especially for the new people coming down here. They're not used to seeing boat parades, so it's just a nice addition to the towns that we have to be able to show and enjoy. Here's the Boca Raton parade, and this is their boat parade. And for those of you that missed out on the prior boat parade, I know there was a concert in Delray at the same time as the boat parade. The Boca Raton boat parade is actually this coming Saturday, the 17th. I think it's 6:30. And it actually starts right on the C14 canal or C15 canal, which is right where Delray Sands is. So Delray Sands South, you'll be able to see the boat parade. And actually the best area to do that in is to park in Red Reef Park on the intercoastal side. You can go in there. There's no permit needed. There's no residency needed. You just go in there and you park. And they used to have like bleachers and things set up if you want, or you can bring your own chairs. So if you've missed out on the first boat parade, there's definitely another boat parade coming. So it's this Saturday coming up for the Boca Raton boat parade. And believe it or not, they all kind of have different boats. Fort Lauderdale is different than Boca. Boca is different than Delray and Boynton. So it's kind of interesting to see another boat parade. It's so close, and it's right down A1A. Okay, another idea I saw that I wanted to share with everybody is we're talking about out-of-the-box ideas and inspirational ideas. So this is something that's really unique. It's called Pangaeus, and Saudi Arabia is building it. It's going to be a floating city. And what's interesting about this is it kind of brought me back to the Waterworld days with Kevin Costner. And it was so interesting to see this. So it's going to have 60,000 people, and it's going to cost $5 billion, and Saudi Arabia is building it. It seems like the budget there is not an issue. And it's going to be just sailing around the world, and it's going to be using green energy, so it's not going to have any pollution, and it's going to be at a speed of around 5 knots. And there's going to be homes, there's going to be apartments, condos. It sounds like a kind of an interesting concept. So again, going back to the Waterworld days, I think it's a big improvement. I think it's a step in the right direction. But I thought it was just so interesting to see something like this. So there is a little video, and I'm going to play the video, and then we're going to come back to the next item that I found that I wanted to share with you guys.
Saudi Arabia is working on a floating city that is considered to become the world's largest floating structure in the shape of a turtle. This floating structure will be called Pangios. It is estimated to cost over $5 billion. Pangios is designed to sail around the world non-stop because it will be equipped with endless green energy supplies. This floating city will have 9 engines, of which each engine will produce 16,800 horsepower. It will cruise at a maximum speed of 5 knots. That is about 9.2 kilometers per hour. Pangios is estimated to accommodate around 60,000 people. The floating city is expected to be ready in the next 8 years.
Okay, now this was an interesting concept. I've shared it privately with a couple people, and I just thought to myself, what a great idea. Again, art with purpose to it. And this piece of furniture is actually a table, a coffee table type of furniture, that has a stainless steel ball in it in sand. And it actually creates a design slowly over time. And then once that design is finished, it will start again and do a totally different design. And I'm like, what a conversational piece this is. So unique, so interesting. And again, it's all art. So it's just amazing to see this type of art. Again, something different, something out of the box. So I'm going to share that with you now.
I've never seen a piece of furniture like this before. There's a stainless steel bowl that is constantly moving. Inside layer of this table is old sand, and it just creates this beautiful pattern. Once it's done with the pattern, it waits for like 30 minutes, and then it starts another pattern.
Okay, and the last thing I wanted to talk about, that new Netflix special came out, Harry and Meghan. And you're probably sitting there saying to yourself, well, what does this have to do with art? You always end with art, because I'm ending now. And I just thought it was so interesting, how music is art. And, the Society of the Four Arts that is up in Palm Beach, music, theater, and so forth is part of that. And music can be so transforming. And, I was thinking after I watched the special, I know there's 3 more episodes coming out that are actually going to get into more of the issues that they faced later on. But I thought, these poor people, and especially Harry, has been through so much. And I looked back at the Elton John singing at Lady Diana's funeral. And I just, it was just so beautiful. And it was just, to me, such art because it was just so emotional and transforming for me that, we really just trying to be kind and not judgmental. And listening to this is just so soothing and just so heartfelt. So I just wanted to kind of share that with you because I thought, watching this special kind of really put things in perspective as far as what Harry and both of them actually have gone through. But it was just, art is music, and sometimes music just is one of those things that touches your heart. So I'm going to end on that, and I'm going to play you the video of that. And if you have time, just listen. I think it would just be worth your time to listen. And I will see you next week for episode 3 and hopefully a better background. Thank you.
Elton John on the right there. Elton John, who will be singing with his partner David Furnish beside him. Elton John, who the princess at the funeral of Versace was comforting, and George Michael, the singer, on the right with the beard. Elton John, who's rewritten his famous song Candle in the Wind that was written for Marilyn Monroe for today, and was here yesterday afternoon practicing in the Abbey. And a world away from the life of those people, those distinguished people who've come here in the Abbey at Horse Guards.
Now in the nave, Elton John sings Candle in the Wind with new words specially written a few days ago by Bernie Taupin.
Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You are the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. You called out to our country and you whispered to those in pain. Now you belong to heaven and the stars spell out your name. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Loveliness we've lost, those empty days without your smile. This torch we'll always carry for our nation's golden child. Even though we try, the truth brings us to tears. All our words cannot express the joy you've brought us through the years. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will. Goodbye, England's rose. May you ever grow in our hearts. You were the grace that placed yourselves where lives were torn apart. Goodbye, English road, from a country lost without your soul, who missed the wings of your compassion more than you will ever know. And it seems to me you've lived your life like a candle in the wind, never fading with the sunset when the rain set in. And your footsteps will always fall here along England's greenest hills. Your candles burned out long before your legend ever will.